Hey, Star Wars fans. Hey, Rule the Galaxy fans. It is Joe and Brent here on Rule the Galaxy tonight, and we are going to be doing one of our favorite shows to follow up on. We're going to be doing Fulcrum Files, where we recap Star Wars Rebels. And tonight, we are actually going to finish up season one, episodes 13, 14, and 15, which will get us to the end of season one, which was a great way to end the season. And before we start, as always, feel free to follow us on Twitter at rulethegalaxysw and email us at rulethegalaxysw at gmail.com. And you can also now, we're dabbling in it. We're trying it out. You can follow us and subscribe to Rule the Galaxy now on YouTube. And I'm going to be adding more and more to that every week. So before we kick in, as I stated, my good friend Brent Dykeman is here with me. Brent, how are you? And are you ready to talk a little Rebels?
I'm ready to talk Rebels. I tried to do some pre-planning for this episode. My son, who has some developmental delays and some challenges and has a rare genetic condition, but knows how to manipulate the iPad, somehow found a way to change the menu on my Disney Plus account to Dutch. So I couldn't figure out if I was playing or if I was resuming or what the name of the episode was. The sound of the show was in English and the subtitles were English, but when I backed out, it was in Dutch, and I ended up logging out and didn't actually get to do some. I have my notes, but I didn't get to do that like last minute
Oh yeah.
refresher
Oh
because
yeah.
my son decided to make Unterlagen uh, and me jit. I mean, we talked some crazy language last podcast that we did with your brother Tony, and I got some Dutch that I was having to navigate through to figure out my Disney Plus account. So
You know what's funny is Hudson, your son, God love him. As you stated, he's facing all kinds of challenges in his life, and here he is with those challenges, and he's figured out a way to do that. While you and I would say, somewhat fully developed human beings. Yeah,
questionable.
questionable. I have a hard. I couldn't even, like, right now, if I was on Disney Plus, I wouldn't even be able to figure out how to switch it from English to whatever else. So
If it helps, I called the call center and the lady said this is a first.
really,
So yeah, so no one. I mean, she had her checklist to go through, and it was eventually we'd have worked through it. But she definitely didn't know didn't know right away what I was talking about, and
wow.
she was working through her checklist. Otherwise, she would have jumped straight to the. Yeah, she was as clueless as I was.
I tell you what,
So
between Azalea with Alfie and Graham now with Nick
right,
and Hudson with you, we've got things going in all different directions.
that is so
And
true.
I'm afraid that, you know what, if this show keeps going, which I think it will, I have a feeling we'll be having little interludes with each one of them,
Oh.
either videos, or I'd love to see a video when your introduction video for YouTube comes out. If you want to show Hudson messing with Disney Plus, I think that would be a definite positive for the show.
I mean, that's pretty much all he does, so it'll be easy to get that footage.
I
And
love it.
it also does give me hope for the future with all of these Star Wars kids, basically. Because what is Graham, like a year and a half, and then
Yes.
Tony's offspring are like 3 and 1 or three
Oh
and
gosh.
two,
Yes.
and I'm sure he's showing them off and on Disney stuff, and yeah. So the future of Star Wars fandom, I feel, is strong, at least within the paisanos.
You know, Nick, little Nick and my son Joey are about the same age. That's kind of scary to think how much I talk to Nick, and he's my son's same age. But I have a feeling you and I can go off to the green pastures when we're ready to shut down the show and let Nick and Joey run it for a little while, and then they can hand it right off to that group, right? So
100%. And
25, yeah.
I apologize if you hear a dog barking or a child yelling in my background. For those people that are listening, I don't have a soundproof booth, and my headphones are not quite as silent. So I just heard the dog bark a couple times, and I'm sure you did too. So
It today, when recording with Nick, I was recording a Lothal library. My dogs decided to go nuts, and that's just the joy of recording from your home. That's how it runs. So, fortunately, I don't have little ones to have to deal with. I'm sure. I think it was T Bob. We had to let T Bob run off in one show where he was taking care of his youngster who was crying in the bedroom. So that's just part of what podcasting is, especially when you're doing it on this somewhat low budget and just
Oh
really
yeah.
starting the show out. So I'm glad you're here. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in your life, so I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we're having fun. And you know what? We'll just kick into it. Rebels. I think we've all proven, and we talked about it the other night. Um, I think Rebels for me had surpassed Clone Wars as my favorite animated part of Star Wars until I had that gut wrenching season 7 of Ahsoka, Darth Vader, Captain Rex, Order 66 that nudged it. But I think if as I go through this review and reviewing of Rebels, I think I'll grow back that love because those characters from the Ghost still get me. And you know, Ahsoka, I know she's not really a Rebels character, but she is. Uh, Captain Rex isn't really a Rebels character, but he is. And then Kanan Jarrus, uh, just he's one of my top guys. So I think as we go through this, it'll rekindle it, and by the time we're over, I think I'll be like, oh, I think I like Rebels again more than Clone Wars. Um, so I don't know. That's just my rambling for a moment there.
The one drawback that I go back to, and I say it all the time, is I'm sure there's people that love it. I'm sure there's people that love it because of the fact that it's not linear, but it really messes with my head. And even now, trying to figure out, well, what happened in Mandalorian and what happened,
Oh,
and like you're trying to fill gaps with stories, and you're trying to make sense, and it's in linear, like the linear fashion of Rebels
yeah,
is the supreme draw of it. That, and you grow to love and care about each of these characters.
100% agree. And I've said it all along that Clone Wars was fabulous because it brought you back into a world that you were comfortable with and then expanded on it. Rebels brought you into a whole new world. Well, actually, it kept you in one small family knit, tight knit world in that larger universe. So it was two kind of different approaches to get you to Star Wars.
And I want more because of the statement that happens right at the end of, and I'll talk about it when it comes up.
Yeah.
But there's a statement that makes me want more of a Rebels.
Sequel.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Don't
I
you,
was
Brent, we can
the
barely hear
dogs.
that, so don't even
Okay,
worry
no
about it.
worries.
Yeah.
I told her to, anyways. Don't
You'll
you
hear
just love
mine.
your children? Don't you just love your children? But
Yes.
like, I want, because there's a statement, and I guess I'll say it now too, is there's other cells, and
Yes.
then like I want those stories, because those stories have to have differences to them, right?
Yeah.
They have to have different people. I mean, they may have the same kind of family, or they may not, like, but what are those other cells that eventually will come together to join?
Well,
I want more of those cells.
now that we have Disney Plus, I think it's very easy to say we're going to do a 4 or 8 cartoon animated series of something that leads into where they join in with Rebels. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like this side group that we see teams up with them. Here's some background on them that you can really get to know them and delve into them for 8 episodes and then see that they join forces with Rebels or they join forces with Rebels in Rogue One or whatever. I think that's out there. And it's comfortable. You're in that same time zone, but it's new, which I think
Yeah.
we've all discussed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know you can't see it over my shoulder because the lights are on it, but I've got Kanan, Zeb, Hera, Sabine, Ezra, and Chopper on that shelf right behind me. And it's one of my prized possessions, having the whole Ghost crew just sitting right there on a shelf together. That I missed it the first time it came out, and when they re-released it, I jumped right in, and I just had to have it. So, and then good old Admiral Thrawn, right up
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
the Rebels. It's hitting me in all the right spots. But let's jump in. Episode 13, Rebels,
Sure.
a call to action. Um, of course, they started off with a great Imperial theme with the shuttle coming in. Then
Mm-hmm.
we get to see one of the coolest guys in Star Wars. I used to dislike him, but the more I see him in things like Rogue One and Rebels, I really have liked him more. Grand Moff Tarkin, and he's really there to take out the insurgents that's going on with the Rebels. And when he gets there, I think the assistant, not the governor, but the assistant to the governor, says
Mm-hmm.
that there's word that there's Jedi, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Tarkin comes right out and says, those are coming right out of the pages of ancient history. I knew the Jedi, and you know what happened to the Jedi? They died. And
So
just great.
my question to you is, because this is where I was at with my notes. Do you think he really believes that? Or do you think he's trying to sell people on that? Or so do you believe that he knows that there may still be some Jedi, not
Yep.
like he knows that there's evil Jedi, right? Like I don't know if at this point they called them the Sith or whatever, but he knows that because Vader's there and he knows the Inquisitor's there. So he
Yes.
knows that there's the other side, the bad side, the Sith side.
Well,
But
I
do you
think
really think that he believes that they're gone?
no. I think well, when you hear Kanan talk about, at one point in time there were 10,000 of us guarding the galaxy, and now it's just down to a small handful. I think we've seen now that Ahsoka, uh, Kanan, Quinlan Voss, just like a handful. I don't know, the guy from Jedi Fallen Order, which I can't remember his name because I've never played in the
Cal
game.
Kestis.
Cal Kestis. There's going to be a few dozen out of 10,000 that are skirting around, but you see what kind of impact they make on the universe. And so, yes, he's selling just like the propaganda posters and the things from
Mm-hmm.
Solo. He's selling that and telling those people, no, they're all dead, they're all gone, to allay those fears and think that the Empire and Vader and the Emperor are in charge. But he knows that there's a handful. That's why they have the Inquisitors. That's why Vader's out there. They're still looking for those. So it was a sell job, but that's what he's there to do.
See, I don't know if I agree with that, only because of if you follow Tarkin all the way through. I mean, when you go into A New Hope, right? Because now A New Hope is probably 4 years after this ish.
Mm-hmm.
He said the Jedi are all but extinct. You're the only one that's left of their religion. I truly think that like he believes that Order 66 wiped him out.
See, I'm going to say he says all but extinct, all
Oh,
but
okay.
extinct. Now,
Okay.
he might think, well,
Well,
Kanan's dead. Spoiler, we're going to get to season 4 or whatever of Rebels, but he might be thinking he's dead. Ahsoka's dead, right? In his
yeah.
mind, he might be saying, because when he asks about Ben Kenobi in Star Wars, he's like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, still alive. He's like, obviously he died.
Surely he's dead by now, right?
Surely
Right.
he's dead, right? So, I, okay, I'll say he's leaning more towards he thinks they're almost all dead, and there's a few stragglers.
And when I hear so the way that I interpreted all but dead is right, he's saying they're all but dead because you still exist,
Okay.
right? So I don't even think he believes that the emperor would be of the religion. I don't like. There's a part of me that doesn't think that. Do you think that the rest of the empire thinks that he's a Sith? They just think of him as Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah,
They don't like unless he's shown himself to those people. I think he just keeps it masked. So
yeah, I agree.
so I think Tarkin only knows of the Inquisitor that has force powers and the fact that Vader has force powers. I really feel like that's what I was. So that was where I was going with that with my
It,
statement.
you might be right. I know for a fact that the emperor, besides to a few select people in his inner circle, never revealed that he was force sensitive or a Sith or anything like that. Um, I don't know if Tarkin was in that circle or not, or whether it was just his consultants and Vader and the Inquisitors. That's something we'll probably have to dig further into. But yeah, I think it's a 50-50 chance that maybe he knows a little bit about the Emperor, but I think you're right. He thinks there might be a few hanger-oners of the Jedi still out there, but that's about it. So I loved how the tables turned. First of all, I love that the Rebels are always on speeder bikes. Those speeder bikes are so cool in Rebels. I know that it ticks them off. I'm just kind of hitting some bullet points that they see Senator Travis going, and now he's recommitted to the Empire and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. They were so ticked at that. And that's where Kanan, when he sees that it's all about communication, says we need to take over one of the Imperial comm towers. I thought that was a great plan. I thought it was awesome. But then I'll hit this one more part right here, and then we can talk about some other things. But Grand Admiral, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Grand Moff Tarkin is showing everyone that you have to be brutal and willing to kill to get rid of the insurgents
Mm-hmm.
and anybody else. I absolutely loved the scene where he's got Callus, the politician, the Inquisitor, and those two Imperial leaders, and he has the Inquisitor come right up behind him and slice their heads right off. And he said, "This is how we're going to get rid of the rebel cells." And because he said, "See, you said there were no casualties. That's not how this works." And right then and there, this story, Rebels, really takes a turn
Mm-hmm.
when he becomes involved, because it becomes, it's playful. It's, oh, some people are getting hurt. Now it's, you know what? It's big boy Rebels versus Empire. So that was just my thought
Yeah,
because I love that scene.
yeah. So, like you get to see the note was I think you get to see what the trouble the crew is actually causing.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to see in this episode the trouble and then how Tarkin responds to that trouble. Is this the one where he also lights Tarkin Town on fire? So not like right after. I think he. This is the same one where if it's not, it's the next one. And I apologize if I get ahead of myself.
No, it's okay. Look,
But
it's in
but
that time. He basically says, "You're supporting the rebels. Here, you're going to pay for it." Right.
yeah.
So
Or that could have been season two.
I know it comes up, but I don't. I'm gonna look
Yeah,
through my notes as we go. Um,
but they become no. It was in season two because it wasn't Tarkin who ordered it. I apologize. It was somebody else who ordered it, but it was their way of trying to snuff out the rebellion, right?
right.
Because like we got to let them know that we like we they hit us, we got to hit them twice as hard or three times as hard.
Yes, yes, I agree. And now you get Tarkin, who was in the Clone Wars with the Jedi. I mean, let's face it,
Yep.
he was part of the Ahsoka part, right? I mean, he's big time into everything with the Jedi, the clones, and now the Empire. He's
Yep.
seen it all a little bit. I really like his character. Go ahead.
How would you feel if you were the magistrate in the room with
That's
the
what it was. Magistrate. I
yeah,
always forget that name. That's what I was looking for.
yep.
Yeah, she was scared out of her pants. She was ready.
I,
She's ready to jump ship.
I mean, and eventually she does,
Right.
right? So again, we might be jumping an episode ahead, but
We are.
eventually she does. But do you blame her?
No.
Like, no, this dude just ruthlessly beheaded some people. Yeah, like I need something to save my life, man.
I think she had a cushy little job and a cushy little, off, way out
Mm-hmm.
of the beaten path kind of planet where nothing really was that bad. And the Empire was coming to them to start some things. So she felt important. And then to see that, she really started to reevaluate things completely. And I would have too. I mean, and even Callus, you saw the look on his face like, wait a
Mm-hmm.
minute, I might be into something over my head here.
Yes.
Um, so I think we'll talk about the growth of Ezra and Kanan again. This was shown again in this episode where Ezra's kind of moping around when they have the plan to go get the tower, and he's not wanting to do the plan because it comes out he's just really afraid that he'll lose the ghost crew, which is now his family. And he's already gone
Correct.
through it once. And so now he's realizing how important that is to him. And it's really upsetting him. And Kanan can tell. Um, and then to go along with that growth by Ezra, Kanan's quote to him was, "When the time comes, you must be prepared to sacrifice yourself." And from a guy who was, I'm going to shoot things up and fly around the galaxy with Hera and act cool, and I don't want people to know I'm a Jedi, to turn and say that comment, that's a pretty big deal. That's becoming a grown up to Ezra.
Yeah, to this point, has he ever reached that point of being willing to sacrifice himself?
Uh, only,
Have we
only,
seen?
only in the one where he stood up and showed his lightsaber. That was the only time he really did
Okay.
that with the
And
Wookiees. But the rest of the
yeah, the
time,
episode
it's
one or two. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, really, he was the reluctant Jedi for the most part.
Right. He was trying to stay hidden because he was hiding from his past and he wasn't okay with his past.
Yep.
But I think Ezra's helping him come out of that shell. I think Ezra is pushing him to grow and get stronger as he's trying to push and get stronger, which is the same. That's what mentorships are.
Yep.
Mentorship, you get as much out of a mentorship as the mentee gets.
Agreed.
Which is why I like the fact that they have the master and the Padawan, and they have the Jedi have that. Even the Sith have it, the
Mm-hmm.
rule of two, because the rule of two is to try to gain the power and then eventually take the power away from the master.
Right.
So
I'll just bump things along. All their shows have good action and good humor in them. I think there's great action, great scenery, and then good humor. I think there's always that good familial humor back and forth between either Sabine, Zeb, Ezra, Kanan, Hera. So that's always stands out to me, especially when they're going to this scary mission at the tower. Um, I think, they planned it out that they had a few minutes to get in and get out. And so when things go awry, as they always do,
Yep.
I love that Kanan stands at the door and looks at all of them and says, "I'll be right behind you," and then shuts the door behind him to go and battle the Inquisitor. And I
Right.
think right then and there, Ezra kind of knew, holy crap, he just told me you got to be willing to sacrifice yourself. And now he's closing the door.
Right.
Thought that was fabulous. I just thought it was so great of a scene. And again, more growth from Kanan. But again, great adventures for the Rebel crew.
Yeah, and another thing that I want to point out, and I don't know if it may be disjointed, but I think this is also where he had the cat jump on the Viper
Oh,
droid.
yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
so what that brought up to me was the fact that, so this is kind of tying in some of the idea of the High Republic, the idea of the High Republic, and bear with me that each Jedi has a connection, a different kind of connection to the Force.
Correct.
And so, and this also comes up with the Force healing, and like that Rey was a Force healer. And so again, I feel like Quinlan Voss has a special trick where he can touch things and see what happened to that item and follow that history of that item.
He does.
Not every
Something. I forget. It's not telekinesis. It's telecometry or something like weird like that. But yes.
Sure. And then I'll let you answer that one, because yeah.
I'm sure Alfie and Nick are laughing at me right now. Anyway.
For sure. But I'm listening to Master and Apprentice, and Qui-Gon, I wouldn't say that it's a connection to the Force, but he buys into the prophecies, and like he dives and devotes himself to the prophecies.
100%.
So there are, and then I would say Obi-Wan is more of a defensive person, and like he's more about protection, and that is his thing, is to try to protect everything. And so each Jedi, I feel, is kind of imprinted with a different gift.
100%.
So they have the Force, but then they have the extra Force in this gift, and part of their, and this kind of ties into the spirituality too. If you go into that, everybody has their own gifts that are given to them, and if you can tap into that gift, then you're going to make yourself even better as a Jedi. And I like the fact that as this is going through, and I may be tapping into this early because I know where we're ending, but I think that it's awesome that they're showing that Ezra, his special gift is tapping into animals, and he gets special connections with animals throughout the entirety of this show. And it wasn't just having this, like, eventually he learned how to do it when the Inquisitor came and they were on that crazy planet from the Bad Batch.
Yep.
That crazy, that was like the first time that he did it, but he started, I think. There, sure. But he's growing that, and they're showing part of his arc is how he's developing that connection with beasts.
Correct. Nope, I love it. And you hit on the High Republic 100%. I've read the first two novels, and they take detailed time to talk about how each of those new Jedi that you're meeting either sees the Force, feels the Force, how they kind of read the Force, and what they can do with it. So it definitely is something that Disney is going into hard and heavy on this. So so look, let's to finish up call to action. Obviously, Kanan battles the Inquisitor, which, by the way, he's improving. He's getting better all the time.
Yeah.
Even the Inquisitor knows that, which I love the Inquisitor. The way he looks is so cool. And while the rest of the Ghost crew is trying to get away, he's basically being a decoy to keep everybody focused on him, including Grand Moff Tarkin, who shows up. And while that's going on, while he's being the decoy, Hera comes through, does her typical save the day, shows up, has the getaway car, and takes off the Phantom. But I really thought there was the scene was great, and again, it showed the direness of both the rebels and the Empire. Of here they are giving out this message, and it's Ezra speaking from the heart to the people of Lothal who know of him or his parents. Great speech, really kind of revving up the troops. But then Grand Admiral, I keep doing it, Grand Moff Tarkin looks basically to Kanan and says, "You don't know how to win a war. I do know how to win a war." And boom, takes down that tower. And again, it's another step of him showing you, like you said, it's at second or third level that you have to get to be able to win a battle in a war. It's not just easy and shoot a few guns and run away. It's hardcore stuff.
I think you truly see, because in the if A New Hope, when you're introduced to Tarkin, like the only time that you ever see him, it's kind of like, how did he get to here? And like, you see that he's ruthless. Like, he's cold.
He is.
He's willing to sacrifice. I mean, because there were stormtroopers, and there were Empire troops in that tower.
Yep.
He didn't care.
Nope. He did not.
He just know he had to stop the transmission anyway, and as quick as possible, and to try to stop it from future.
Correct. And I know you're slowly jumping into the books, and I know it's certain things have caught your interest, but the Tarkin book gives a lot of detail and background on him, and
Okay.
it's an easy read. It's almost like a biography history book, because it goes through a lot of things leading up, so you're getting a whole reason that he is the way he is, kind of thing.
So the other question is, is the Inquisitor immune?
He's Utapau. He's from Utapau. The guys.
So is that the Munes? Is that a like, so Utapau's from the guys from episode 3?
Mm-hmm. The Munes are also in episode 3. They're the bankers with the really skinny,
okay,
weird shaped heads, very thin.
Well, because in Plagueis, sorry to cut you off,
know.
but in Plagueis they talk about immune, and they talk about pointed teeth, and like this kind of like facial feature and pointed teeth. And I, now watching this and rewatching it, I mean, the Inquisitor does have that kind of smashed, a little bit skinnier face, and I believe he's got some pointed teeth.
He does.
So I was thinking he might be immune, and then I was trying to like then picture what Plagueis would actually look like, but whatever.
If you go back and look at the banking clan, if you pull up banking clan, that's immune.
Okay.
And they're very odd looking.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect them to be Sith, but you wouldn't expect Palpatine to be a Sith either. He just looks like an old, senator. So we obviously leave. They're wondering if the message got out. Yeah, yes, it got out. And Kanan now is trapped. And so we go into Rebels episode 14, Rebel Resolve. And it's where it's starting to get more intense. There's more troops. There's AT-ATs and ATSTs. Again, more great action to start off, where the Ghost crew is trying to find out where Kanan is and how to get to him. And the Empire knows this is the group. This is the one we've got to chase after. But Ezra, again, sensing that life kind of force you're talking about, he can sense that Kanan is alive. And at the same time, Grand Moff Tarkin. So while Ezra's searching for him throughout the databases and throughout the Force, Grand Moff Tarkin has Kanan, and he's like, we're gonna punish him and torture him to find out if he really is a Jedi or if he's just a guy with a laser sword pretending to be a Jedi. So starting to this, what do you think about this? Because it had some really cool some cool parts. I mean, Fulcrum's telling Hera, go on your next mission. You got to kiss Kanan goodbye. He's gone, right? You got to move on. And she's going to follow her orders. When Fulcrum tells her, she's like, we've got to, you lose things in battle. We got to move on to what Fulcrum wants us to do.
I want to start with one question.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Chicken Walkers? Because it was a completely different design. What did you think? And I'm calling them Chicken Walkers because I don't. Are they the ATPT or the ATST or the ATDTs? They all got different acronyms, but they're all Chicken Walkers.
Yeah.
So what did you think of that design? Because there are people of my Legion game, because they're slowly introducing Rebels into the game. So there's the plane that flies in the Rebels. It's the LAAT, but it's like a patrol ship. Okay, it is a Rebel ship. You see it a couple times. I want to say in the last episode you might have saw one.
I did like those. Yeah.
So they're going to introduce those. Supposedly they're rumored. They haven't actually fully announced them, but they're rumored to be released.
Okay.
But people are dying to get those. I think they're called the ATPTs from Rebels, and I don't like the look. I personally don't like it.
Don't they just have one cannon on them?
Yeah, they got like a little ball. They got and they got like a little ball cannon like that.
Look, being a guy who grew up with Empire and Jedi, that's what I want to see with my as you call them,
Okay.
chicken walkers, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but I think you might have even said a long time ago. I mean, they change models of cars every year. You don't see a 19 whatever sitting around being driven that much, right? So,
Right, but at the same time, some of those models you like better than others, right? Like
yes.
I like the 65 Mustang, but I'm not a huge fan of like and I like the 69 Mustang,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not a big fan of the 2000 Mustang. To
No.
me, it was a little too boxy,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so there are different models of years that you like, and I'm just that chicken walker just I could pass. I'm not a huge fan.
You know,
It just looked funny.
as DJ says in The Last Jedi, good guys, but bad guys, it's all the same, right? I
Oh,
mean,
you want to talk about the worst characters in the world? If you would do a would you rather Jar Jar or DJ? I would commit suicide.
well,
That's the way I feel about both of those. So I also like you said that Fulcrum
hmm
Ahsoka comes on and says, sorry, I probably sorry,
oh,
spoiler alert.
spoiler.
Spoiler. Fulcrum comes on and says we need to change. You need to go on your next mission.
Yep.
And it's now because of your transmission, the universe is taking note, and now we need to switch, and we actually need to protect Ezra because now Ezra is going to become the face of the empire, the face of the rebellion.
Right.
People are going to buy into it because of how well he presented himself in that moment, how he carried himself, how from the heart his message was. And I really did dig that part of it too. And I think Ezra bought, or not Ezra, Hera bought into that. Hera's
Yep.
like, okay, like that's where we got to go. Whereas the rest of them secretly were like, nah, we're not doing that. We're gonna go find Kanan. I'm sorry, Hera.
I,
We're gonna go find Kanan.
I think that was, well, I mean, look, Hera has been in this since she was a little girl back on Ryloth with her dad. She's been in the battle against somebody, the Republic or the Empire or the Separatists, her whole life. So she's basically a soldier in everything she does. She's very cut and dry. That's why for her having a relationship with like someone like Kanan is so different because she's lost so many things that she can't get close to anything. But yeah, she was having a hard time, but she was going to follow what Fulcrum said. I loved the plan that Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb had of going and getting well, first uh meeting with Vizago, and because I thought that was a great scene, but also having the old TIE fighter that we thought was a throwaway discussion from earlier, having that old TIE fighter that had been now spray painted and looked like, graffiti TIE fighter. I thought that was great. I thought it was so much fun. But part of that, again, going back to Vizago, where Ezra had to step out and say, hey, Kanan's a Jedi. I'm a Jedi. Vizago didn't believe him and he had to show him. But, that really put him in a world of hurt as well. Vizago could
Yeah.
have used that for his own gain.
I like how Hera kind of was like, huh, this kid's got some moxie.
Mm-hmm.
This kid, like, I told him not to, but you know what? Like, I really want to do what he's saying, and this kid's got some moxie. I'm gonna like, all right, kid, let's see. So, what's your plan? Like,
Yes.
what are we gonna do? I also love, like you said, it was a throwaway. But then, if you go back several other episodes, there was an episode where Ezra was late to training because he was out with Sabine. Obviously, like it's alluding to the fact that they were out spray painting it, right? Like that's what I mean. If you look back and you
No, I
think
like
back
it.
on it, he was late because he's like, yeah, I was out with Sabine doing a training thing or something. I'm sorry. Like he's like, you're not taking this seriously, right? But if you go back on it, he was helping Sabine paint that masterpiece.
Yes.
And I also love how Zeb knew that the tie was there, but he had no idea that it had gotten spray painted. Like he wasn't a part of the spray painting. And he was like, what did you do?
Yeah, I thought all that was very well done. And again, when you're dealing with Dave Filoni, it's something that Joey and I have talked about, Nick and I have talked about. He just doesn't throw things away. Everything, every morsel on that bone, man, he's like, I'm gonna use that. And so I'm sure it was in the plan, but what a great way to think, oh, this is kind of maybe a little silly episode, but it comes back to be a part of the end of the season. I love that. They find out where he is. He's on Grand Moff Tarkin's ship, the Sovereign, and we find out. I mean,
Mustafar.
Mustafar, and the way
Mustafar.
when they end that episode, And like I think Sabine and Ezra look at Hera and they're like, "What's with Mustafar?" And she said, "Kanan's told me about it. It's the place where Jedi go to die." Dude, that was fabulous.
Because that's where Anakin turned. That's where, yeah, yeah, that was a great line.
Yes.
Um, Prior to that, just a smidge prior to that, I believe, and forgive me about the
No,
timeline because I wasn't able to do my last minute watching
you're
because of
fine.
my son changing it to Dutch. Um, God, I was trying to make my joke. I love the torture devices have not changed
No.
in 45 years of the Empire's rule because the same rig or same kind of rig
Mm-hmm.
that they used on Kanan was the rig that they used on Han in Empire, and it was the same one that they used on Poe, and it was the same one that they used on Rey. Like
And
all,
I
like
want to
it's the same rig.
and I want to say that there were some similar torturings going on like that in Clone Wars to Jedi that the separatists
So
captured.
we're going further back. We're going even further back. So
So
it's the same torture
we're
rigs.
talking 60-year span. So while the ships are changing in every episode,
right. We get different models of ATSTs and ATPTs, but we got to keep our torture done. Like, hey, if it works, right? Why fit? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's gonna
exactly.
get what we gotta get, then we're gonna keep it the same.
So
I just got a kick out of that.
so let's think about this real quick before we go into the last episode. They end it talking about Mustafar. So this is 15 or so years after Revenge of the Sith. 14, 15. Yeah, it's 15.
Yeah.
15 years after. So I mean, you want to talk about really cool is it's again another way to tie back in the Clone Wars and tie back in the prequels. And as soon as that came out of their mouths of being Mustafar, everybody who was watching this was just like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh!"
We're gonna see Vader. Like they're gonna
Yes,
like this is the time we see Vader, right? Because everyone knows that Mustafar is his home planet and it's right within the Rebels timeline. Like you're going to see Vader. Like, but you don't.
right.
But you're like, I think everybody's like, oh, they're gonna bring Vader into this.
I
Mustafar.
know. I mean, we're thinking, is he going to go land Kanan at Vader's castle, right? That's on the lava
Right.
pits. I mean, so that was a very cool way to leave it. And then I mean, let's face it, they do a really great job of finishing, whether it's Mandalorian, whether it's Clone Wars, whether it's Rebels, finishing a season with something that really is either a cliffhanger or just brings it all together. And they did on this one as well. Episode 15. So this is a short first season, Fire Across the Galaxy. And I think that has plenty of different ways this could go with that title, but I really think it's a great title for this one right here.
One question that'll lead into this next one. Who do you think is stronger in the Force, the Inquisitor or Kanan?
Ooh, I would say probably the Inquisitor at this time. I mean,
Okay.
Kanan could be, but he's been hiding it and not really using. It's like anything else, atrophy, right? The Inquisitor's been tearing stuff up and going after things and searching for Jedi for the last so many years. I don't know, but that's where I would assume at that moment, probably, possibly.
And here's what I'm going to use to say that the opposite of that is where I feel Kanan is stronger because it's right towards the end of the episode of the Mustafar. The Inquisitor is trying to do the whole reading his mind, and Kanan is basically shutting him out. So as far as within the Force, I think Kanan is stronger with the Force. Now, the Inquisitor has proven over time that he can battle far better. Like he is a better fighter. He's a better saber wielder. He's better with that aspect of being in the Jedi arts. But as far as kind of the master of the Force and being able to lock it out, I think Kanan's starting to show his strength in that because he was able to push the Inquisitor out at this time. So, and then we jump into because it's right at the end of that episode.
Well, no, it's actually it's at the beginning of this one. Yeah.
Okay.
I just looked down at my notes.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. So first, our affection for Sabine. We both Sabine's one of our girls, right?
Blow stuff up.
But she starts the whole show off by being this super acrobat, blowing stuff up, putting her spray paint down.
Can't shoot me. You
That's
can't shoot
right.
me.
I mean, and she's what, 16 or 17 years old.
Yeah.
But she's super cool, and I mean, she's tearing stuff up. Maybe a little more Jedi style, activity, but she's really good at what she's doing there.
Right, or it's also just that joke that the Empires can't hit shit. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like playing on that, like, their terrible aim. Oh, you can't hit me. You can't hit me. Nope. Yep. Definitely missed me. Yep.
So they take off. They've got their ships, and they've got the tie that they painted up, and they're taking off towards Mustafar to go get Kanan. But this is where you're exactly right. The Inquisitor, while they're sitting there and doing the torture stuff, asks about Fulcrum, which Kanan says, don't know anything. You're talking to the wrong guy. I'm just one guy, whatever. And then where I've got it for you, the book you need to read. The Inquisitor starts talking to him about Depa Billaba, his master, and he said, you were a coward. You
Yeah.
took off playing mind games with him, and he said, what was the last thing
Yeah.
she told you was run, and you ran like a coward, basically.
And have you told the rest of your ghost crew that you're a coward?
Right.
I mean, like, if you want to talk about sticking a needle in somebody's rib and twisting it, like, that one, like,
that hurt.
He already was somewhat ashamed because he did that. Right. And obviously the Inquisitor had either you feel that or know that, but he was already at a level of, like, a shame, like I said, and now you're gonna just, like, dig it in a little bit more.
Well, and this, like I said, when next time we meet up, I need to give you that. I've got a hardback version of like a 6 comic series of Kanan, and it's going back in history on Kanan to that time to currently when he was in Rebels, and it bounces back and forth and back and forth, so it goes deep into the history. You'll love it. Mass has already borrowed it. It's great, but it talks about Depa Billaba and the running and all that kind of stuff.
And I think this also ties into his character arc in the future episodes as well. This kind of, like, this idea of coming to grips with you're not a coward for running. Like, even though you feel like you were a coward, you truly weren't a coward for running. Even though the Jedi kind of were, and so was my boy Yoda, and so was my boy, and, like, they all just. Anyways,
no, I agree.
They all just, like, you think the Jedi were this thing, and they just, like, packed up and left.
But, so when the tie shows up, how great is okay? We say sometimes humor doesn't work or doesn't hit well in Star Wars, but the line when that TIE fighter pulls in,
I kind of like it.
Yeah, that's not regulation. I kind of like it. Gosh, I mean, you're right in the thing thinking, what's going to happen to Kanan? They're at Mustafar, all this stuff, and they throw in that little thing, and that was just perfectly timed, in my opinion. I thought it was great. So they leave Chopper, I believe, on a shuttle, and this is one of the first times when Hera jumps in, right? Hera jumps in to help.
Yep, she doesn't stay on the plane. She goes in and she follows the ghost crew around, and it's Zeb, because Ezra goes to find. They split up.
Yep.
Because they have to. And I love how they call him a loth rat, right? They've called him a loth rat the whole time, and he was like a sewer rat. So he used the sewers to go find the senator. Yep. I can't remember the senator's name, like the one that turned on him. There you go. And then now he's using essentially the sewers and the pipes to get Kanan Jarrus. And, like, no one can get through. Well, not us, or something like that. They look around like, we can't. And then they kind of look at him, and then they look up to the vents. He's like, well, yeah, I guess I probably can use the vents.
I don't remember when it was, but I love the line that he threw out one time. It was like, training to be a Jedi, and I still have to climb through the air vents. I mean, I don't know if it was this one or a different one, but yeah. So Kanan, or he goes off and finds Kanan, which is great. And while they're trying to weave and dodge and get their way out of there, and were they? I'm trying to remember. Were they trying to take out something like part of the ship or the hyperdrive or something like that while he was trying to get Kanan so they could get away? Maybe take down the whatever.
They were going to they're going to another ship. They were trying to take another ship because they didn't want to go back to the TIE.
Yes.
They wanted to go somewhere else and get a different ship.
So
because the tie was a distraction because it was like manual, and then they kind of came in. They put their ship on the side of the destroyer, and which was really interesting. And I didn't notice it until I watched it like the second or third time. They go in horizontal to the destroyer. They show the cartoon animation shows the ship sideways, but yet they're walking in a straight line as if gravity was okay.
come on, Mr. Science Man.
I mean, like I can suspend reality for a little bit, but like that was like when I saw it, I was like, huh? Like that's just not right. Like they have the whole scene shifted and
Yes.
they're just walking in a straight line, but they're walking in a horizontal straight line.
Well,
It's
coming from a guy who grew up on Scooby Doo, I can let all of that go suspended. I mean, Scooby talked to the the crew there. So,
Roro. Roro,
ruh-roh,
Shaggy.
dog,
Roro.
where? Um, so I think this was a great lightsaber slash just battle, where the Inquisitor shows up. The only lightsaber they have is Ezra's. Kanan says, "Give it to me."
Right.
And he starts doing it where he's shooting, then swiping. And Ezra's like, why didn't I ever think of that?
Right. Like one, I think our brains are connected because that was in my notes as well. Like, but how do you not think of that, Ezra? Like you created this thing. This
Correct.
is your creation, which I think is possibly one of the coolest lightsabers that is out there. And you don't think of this? Like, huh, I didn't even think of that. Like he just thought of using it at one or the other, but
Right.
he's using it in between. Like he's firing and then attacking, swiping. He's firing and then swiping.
Yep.
And it's like, how did you not think of that, Ezra?
Oh no, it was a great, another well-timed little bit of humor there. But Ezra obviously sees that, hey, wait, Kanan's lightsaber's right there. He's got it on his, he's got the Inquisitor's got it on his belt. So I'm gonna hop in because I'm Mr. Rambunctious Ezra, and I can't sit back and watch Kanan try to take out the Inquisitor without me. And just such a key scene when the Inquisitor takes out Ezra and Kanan thinks he's dead. He sliced at him, gave him a scar. He falls, but Kanan doesn't know what's really happening. And I'm going to try to read this here. I wrote down my notes. So Kanan thinks he's dead. He says, "You made a mistake," and he was like, "Why? What?" And he was like, "Because you have nobody left to die for." And he's like, "No, because I have nothing left to fear." And you could just see Kanan turn on a dime right there, right? And you also saw a little bit of fear in the Inquisitor, like, what did I just stir up here? I'm always the protagonist. I'm always going after this. And now this guy's like, I'm just going to let it all hang out and come after you. I thought that was just a great time frame and switching of Kanan right there.
Yeah, no, I liked yeah, you could see him, and it's almost like when we talked about Obi-Wan when he was fighting Maul, there was a piece of which we think that Obi-Wan might have tapped into the dark side to try to fight Maul in the Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
And you like I also kind of see that in Kanan in this fight, like at that point, and then he destroys the lightsabers. Like the spinny part of it, and like but then at the same time it's like the next line from the Inquisitor is like, sometimes there's bigger fears than death.
Yes.
And that's just like, wow, that's some foreshadowing there, bud. Like, what are you saying is something worse to fear?
Right.
Like, I'm going to die because either I die now or I die because I failed. But there are bigger things to fear than death.
Yes.
And like, okay, like that to me was a powerful line. Now after I rewatch it, I don't know if it struck me when I watched it the first time, but after watching it a couple times, it's like, ooh, there's some foreshadowing in there.
So with that, and I agree with you, some of those lines right there were very good lines. Like you could see that in live action, not just animated. Those would be very well played in live action. So with that, he lets go of the ledge he's hanging on to and drops down into whatever that was there, some kind of engine core.
It was his sabers that blew it up.
Yes.
He didn't fall into it, but the broken sabers, because they're still ignited because the Kyber's still putting out the energy, sliced into that power grid or whatever and blew the ship up.
So he's fallen into that. Kanan hears Ezra, is shocked that he's still alive. They take off and get out of there. and they're running out, trying to get out, whatever. when I so when I saw this, this when all this stuff starts happening here at the end, it almost reminded me of the Return of the Jedi battle above Endor, but except in over
Okay.
Mustafar, right? Like we're getting to that, but um, the Ghost Crew's looking for Chopper. They don't know where he is. He's supposed to be picking him
Right.
up, so they take off another ship. Um, Chopper takes off. Go ahead.
There was an insane amount of TIE fighters that came after those two TIE fighters. There
Correct.
was an insane amount of TIE fighters. And you only saw maybe 2 battleships, maybe 3 Star Destroyers.
And that's
Shit.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what reminded me so much of Return of the Jedi. Over Mustafar. And I think I lost Brent, but I'm sure he'll be right back. In the meantime, so the Ghost Crew's pretty ticked because Chopper has taken off. They thought he was kind of their escape hatch, and so they have to take another ship, get out of there in their TIE fighter, and then Ezra and Kanan, of course, are able to jump right into. They find the Inquisitor's TIE fighter, and of course, Ezra, throwing out more humor, says, "Well, at least we know he's not going to use it." So they hop in that. When they jump out there, they're seeing all these numbers, as Brent mentioned, of TIE fighters and things going on. Chopper comes flying back in and with the ship, and they're thinking, what's going on? And that's where they find out there's other rebel cells. There's other people there. There's the blockade runners are coming through from Alderaan, and so they finally are a little bit more happy because, and I think Brent is here. And I was just rambling for a moment while Brent was gone. Brent, I hope everything's okay.
For right now, yes. So
Okay.
I don't know what you shared or whatever, but I
did not share
out.
anything. I just said Brent's
so I
gone.
just dropped out real quick. Yep. So
and
just keep going. Where we at?
So we were talking
because we're almost done.
Yes, I went into the more TIE fighters, Return of the Jedi over Mustafar. They're ticked because Chopper's gone with their ship.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, here comes the cavalry, the blockade runners. They show up and start blowing everything out of the sky. They're all like, "Who are these guys? Are they on our side?" So they finish well. They get out of there, and that's where Hera, when they meet back up, and she hugs Kanan, and they're talking and says, "There are other rebel cells," and there was a holo of Bail Organa, which I don't care if it's Jimmy Smits or the gentleman who's playing him here. Bail Organa is just a cool dude. I mean, it's a shame he had to leave us in episode 4 of all this, but he was cool in everything he did. And then, of course, after they find out there's more rebel cells, which none of them knew, and they see the holo of Bail Organa, then comes the voice of the one and only Ahsoka Tano coming down the ladder, a grown-up Ahsoka Tano.
She looks different though, because the markings and the coloring is different from Clone Wars Ahsoka.
Yeah. So this is 15 years later. I guess Togrutta's changed in a lot.
It just looks. There was a different look, and I just can't place it. It's not necessarily bad. It's just not the same.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And I've got now figures of like each era of Ahsoka, and there are differences on all of them. So heck, there's even differences on the one in Mandalorian. So
I gotcha.
Yeah, but I thought that was just fabulous, and I've heard people sit there and go, "Wait a minute, I thought Ahsoka was dead. I didn't know what was going on. Where did she show up?" And so that was great to see our Ahsoka back and to find out she's Fulcrum. But then they announced that there's unrest all over Lothal after Ezra's message, which is great. That means that the people are starting to rise up and fight. And then again, here we see another shuttle. We hear another famous bit of music, and they say, well, the Emperor has sent an alternative solution to kind of, knock down these insurgents. And walking down that ramp with the breath, with the just look of evil, as our friend Darth Vader. So like you said, we all felt that we might see Vader or Mustafar, but it just ended up that he was in later in the episode in a different avenue. But what a way to end season 1 with, we've just met up with Grand Moff Tarkin. Now we see Vader coming in. We know Ahsoka's back, all in a couple episodes at the end of season 1.
And the one thing that I also want to just hit on was they asked Tarkin if he wanted to leave. And it just made me laugh because it's like almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
What in our moment of triumph? And so he did leave in that time, right, to preserve himself. So he must have really thought that there was no chance that the rebels could have beat him. Because why? Because in that moment, he took off he saw the writing on the wall and it was
Yep.
the ship was going down. So he took off and left in the shuttle. Conversely, in New Hope, he's like, what in our moment of triumph?
Yes.
So he truly felt that there was no way that these rebels could finally get the better of him again.
Well, he had the biggest, most powerful weapon in the world, in the universe, plus Darth Vader.
Yep.
Plus, I
The
mean,
Emperor.
yeah, I mean, he's got everything going his way with that. And yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. And I can almost guarantee you that Filoni and his staff said, let's play off of that Death Star thing right here when he was in the Star Destroyer. Let's play off that a little bit, but like you said, have him make a different decision here instead of,
Right.
I mean, obviously he's got to live, but let's play on that and tweak that to go the opposite way for this. So um, I don't know. I watched these a week or so ago and wrote down some notes. I left that excited to start season 2. I mean,
Yep.
it's been it's been a year or two, a year since, probably since I've watched all the Rebels. And so now I'm like, I'm really jazzed to go back and watch season 2 because I know what goes on and where it goes from here.
Right.
So any closing thoughts? I mean, we talked about earlier growth. We talked about earlier character development. We see that in so many different parts of this. Obviously, there's still things we need to grow with Zeb and Sabine.
Zeb, yes,
The,
they're both kind of underutilized here towards the
yes.
end. It's not necessarily their story right now. We'll get a couple episodes and we'll see their arcs develop, but this was surely the main plot line. This was not a character development story
Yep.
set of episodes. This was a main push the story type of episodes. So yeah. Other than that, like it left me the same way. Like, oh, you see Vader. All right, we're gonna see what Vader does more or less in his prime. Because again, we're about 4 or 5 years before Rogue One, 4 or 5 years before Rogue One, 4 or 5 years before A New Hope. So you're gonna see kind of Vader late prime, I guess, maybe, and see what kind of why he instilled the fear so well in all the other people. So yeah, I same way. It's really funny because I said the same thing in my notes about Chopper brings in the cavalry. It's just, I think we think the same.
You know what? After this last year of us talking so much, I think there's definitely some mind melding going on between the two of us. Being guys in our 40s and facing the trials and tribulations of life, but having something fun to go be an escape for us.
Right.
It's definitely making our brains kind of work the same way. So, look, we buzzed through season 1. I think you're right. We'll hit season 2. We'll break it down, probably get those chopped up and get them coming out in the near future as we get going. But Brent, going through season 1 was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to do it. And I look forward to starting season 2 as soon as we both have the time available to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
we gotta carve that time out. No,
Any
I
other
enjoyed
closing thoughts?
No, I enjoyed and look forward to season 2 as well. I get this Rebels and get into some of the fun and good stuff in season 2, 3, and then we get into the crazy stuff in season 4. But whatever.
All right. Before we go into the world between worlds, this is Joe and Brent, and thanks so much for giving us a listen in the Fulcrum Files, Rebels, the end of season 1 right here. We'll be coming back with more episodes soon and starting season 2. But until the next time we can meet up, remember to follow us at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter, rulethegalaxysw@gmail.com for any emails you want to send our way, especially if you want to rip on me and Brent for being two older guys watching animated series, but I don't care because I like them.
Neither do
I. And you know what? We'll put this together and do it again soon. Until we both talk to you very soon, may the force be with you.
This is the way.